Let's open up a historical cold case today, shall we? I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for another explainer. We're going to take some ancient texts that people have literally been reading for thousands of years, and we're going to look at them through a completely different lens. We're diving deep to decode a hidden message buried inside a very famous story. It's a message all about power, empire, and the really subtle kind of genius ways that ancient authors signaled who the real villains actually were. But right off the bat, I want you to think about this incredibly bizarre but totally fascinating question. What on earth does a bowl of red stew have to do with the world's most terrifying ancient empire? I mean, it sounds like the setup to a weird joke, right? But stick with me here, because by the end of this explainer, you are going to see exactly how a simple bowl of soup connects directly to a ruthless global superpower. It's wild. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. Two nations in the womb, the rivalry of Jacob and Esau. So even before these twin brothers took their first breath, they were destined to be two distinct, constantly battling nations. And you can see how the texts deliberately contrast their personalities the second they grow up. On one hand, we've got Jacob. He's described with a word that means mild or complete, basically a peaceful guy who just hung out in tents. But then you have Esau. Esau is described as this rugged hunter, a man of the field. That phrase, in its original context, essentially means a wild man. They are literal polar opposites. But to really wrap our heads around Esau, we actually have to go back to the moment of his birth. Just listen to this exact quote from Genesis describing it. "The first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment." I mean, pause and think about how incredibly weird those details are. He comes out physically mature, bright red, and totally covered in hair, like he's wearing a thick fur coat. So that brings up our very first major clue. Why? Why are these bizarre animalistic traits included in the text? Being fully developed and covered in a coat of hair at birth, those are things we associate with animals, definitely not human babies. The ancient authors weren't just throwing in random details for a little dramatic flair. No way. They are setting up a central mystery here, embedding a highly specific literary code about who Esau really is. Which takes us to Section 2, the land of Seir, the geography of Edom. Now, to crack this code, we have to look past the individual man and look at the nation he founded. Esau is an eponymous figure. He's the allegorical symbol of an entire national identity. His descendants ultimately settled down in Mount Seir, which is this really rugged mountainous region stretching between the Dead Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba. They ended up conquering the original inhabitants there, a group called the Horites, and established their own kingdom. But here is where the wordplay just gets absolutely brilliant. Let's break down the etymology. The root of the name Esau implies being fully done or developed. The territory he conquers, Seir, that literally translates to hairy, and the nation he eventually founds, Edom, translates to red. You see what's happening? His completely bizarre physical birth traits became the literal, actual names for his territory and his people. And that whole color motif, it pops right back up in the incredibly famous story where Esau trades away his super valuable birthright for a single bowl of food. Picture it, he stumbles in from the field, completely exhausted, and he wants Jacob's stew. But he doesn't just ask politely for lunch. The text actually has him demanding, "Let me eat some of that red stuff." He has this impulsive, almost animalistic obsession with immediate gratification and a weird fixation on things that are the blood-red color of that stew. It's a huge hint at his bloodthirsty, battle-ready nature. All right, let's pivot to Section 3. Enter Nimrod the Hunter, our missing puzzle piece. So we have this very specific archetype building up here. A wild, animalistic founder of a nation, strongly associated with the color red, who happens to be a master hunter. The big question is, where have we seen this exact archetype before? So the crucial point is, the answer is Nimrod. Long before Esau hits the scene, the texts introduce us to mankind's #1 very first monarch. And he wasn't just any king. He originated the entire concept of a global empire. His territory included Babylon, Uruk, and this is key, Assyria, where he built the massive city of Nineveh. The text introduces him using this very specific phrase, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. Now, mighty hunter isn't just a casual description. It is a rare, highly specific phrase that acts like a massive neon sign pointing straight toward ancient Mesopotamian royal traditions. Because, you see, in ancient Assyria, Kings didn't just go hunting on the weekends for fun. The royal lion hunt was a deeply sacred monarchic duty. The idea was that by stepping into the arena and physically defeating the apex predator, the lion, in hand-to-hand combat, the king was literally taking on the mantle of that animal's power. It was how he proved his right to rule with absolute, terrifying authority over the known world.
And that brings us to Section 4, Parallels of Power, Connecting the Clues. This is where we unveil the massive revelation of this whole text. Are you ready? Esau is intentionally written as the ideological successor to Nimrod and his ruthless Assyrian empire. I mean, just rapidly fire off these shared traits. They are both historical firsts. Nimrod is mankind's first monarch, and Esau is the firstborn who sets up a monarchy way before Israel does. They are both defined by that super rare title of hunter. They both have these deep defining ties to the color red, and they are both aggressive imperialists who just conquer and assimilate everyone around them. They function as a perfectly paired set in this ancient literature. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how deep this literary code goes. Do you remember how Esau was born covered in a thick, hairy mantle? Well, in Hebrew, the term for that is an Oteret Se'ar. Now, take a guess at what they called the incredibly famous, highly prestigious royal robe worn by the kings of Assyria and Babylon? An Oteret Shinar. The ancient writers are using this absolutely brilliant Hebrew wordplay to link the hairy birth mantle of Esau directly to the prestigious Assyrian royal robe of Nimrod's empire. It is a linguistic flashing light connecting the two. Still need a little more proof? Let's circle back to the color red for a second. Esau is born red. His nation is Edom, which means red, and he totally obsesses over that red stew. Well, check out how the prophet Nahum describes Nineveh, the fearsome Assyrian capital that Nimrod built. He writes, "The shields of the soldiers are red, the warriors are clad in scarlet." The blood-red motif of Esau is perfectly mirroring the terrifying blood-red war machine of the Assyrian Empire. Let's wrap this up with Section 5, the evolution of empire, the lion motif. So here is our final clue, and this really locks the whole thing into place. Remember how Nimrod hunted lions to steal their power? Well, archaeology actually gives us the missing link for Esau's kingdom. When archaeologists dig up the official seals used by the Edomite kings, Esau's literal descendants, what do they find on them? Not just standard royal crests, they find the royal sphinx of Edom, a literal cosmic lion man god. Just as Nimrod was the ultimate lion hunter, Edom's kings wrapped themselves in that exact same leonine authority. Let's move to and see how this builds into one undeniable picture. When you put all the pieces of this puzzle together, it's just crystal clear. From their origins as historical firsts, to the royal lion motifs, right down to the obsession with the color red that completely defined them, Edom seamlessly continued a serious culture of domination. These ancient texts are trying to tell us that the spirit of Nimrod's tyranny didn't just vanish. It was completely reborn in Esau. It really just makes you step back and appreciate the absolute literary genius of this source material, doesn't it? A bowl of red stew isn't just a bowl of red stew at all. It's this profound, layered warning about the nature of power and empire. Which leaves me with a final, slightly provocative thought for you to ponder today. If the terrifying Assyrian Empire was hidden right there in the story of Esau all along, what other ancient empires are hiding in plain sight within these texts, just waiting for us to decode them? Thanks for exploring this mystery with me today. And hey, always keep questioning everything you read.